Hey, how's everybody doing today? Well, I'm putting together a document here, something that kind of came up out of nowhere. Some pettifogger, shyster attorney is attempting to steal my property. And so, with the help of uh, a fellow veteran and some other, uh, I guess, for lack of better terms, YouTube personalities or people on YouTube posting videos like what I'm doing, I've been able to glean the information that I need and get the direction I need on how to apply the information properly. Uh, and in doing so, I came across a couple of questions, constitutional questions, in which, um, first and foremost, I'm going to be sending to the court. See, it's funny, this shyster attorney uh, sends a letter, says I have until July 27th to respond, but then turns around like 6 or 7 days later. The letter was dated June 22nd of 2022. And then on June 29th, 2022, the shyster attorney filed in the county court for foreclosure. So, without giving me the time frame that this shyster attorney even allotted, or the firm, or whoever is in charge of this pettifogger. So, yeah, so now I've got to figure out what it is they actually want. I mean, do I have until July 27th to respond now, or is that all done away with? Did they decide just to roll back that offer and go with a different offer for some reason? Um, I don't know what to make of these people. They don't seem to be very sound-minded. So, anyways, the two questions that I'm going to ask, and I got this from Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER is the name that he goes by. That's the YouTube channel name. Staff Sergeant Robert Berlewski. If you go check out his channel, he's got some good information over there, some good presentations. It would definitely behoove you all to go check out his channel and his videos. He covers a large variety of different topics. But anyway, so these questions I gleaned from his channel, from a couple of his postings, one video in particular. But the first question is, are the laws the, quote, defendant, end quote, is accused of offending enacted by constitutionally qualified persons? So that's the first question. Second question, are the court's judicial and executive officers constitutionally qualified to prosecute and adjudicate the laws of Ohio? Now, essentially, this is just a bit of a litmus test, if you will, to make sure that the court is abiding by the Constitution. Because if these particular judicial or executive officers do not have the proper documentation put in place, i.e., oaths of office, governor's commissions, that sort of thing. If they're not filed, if they haven't been processed properly, and the proper paperwork is not in the proper places, which allows these people to officially act in their capacity, then in fact they're impersonating an officer. And if in fact they are impersonating an officer because their paperwork is not in line, if they happen to not have a proper oath of office on file, if for some reason they don't have a governor's commission, there's a lot of these details that would disqualify them and actually constitute a violation of the law. And I'm not quite sure what all the consequences would be there. I'm not an expert in all of this. All I know is what I know. So, if that is the case, speaking hypothetically, then we'll let the powers that be, address it as they see fit. However, in the interim, if that is the case, if they happen to be not qualified for their position, uh, then in fact what they're doing is fraud. It's further evidence of extortion, racketeering, um, potential theft of additional property from me, now from the county. Because see, here's the thing. What makes this fraud, what makes every mortgage fraud, is the fact that not one single financial institution out there that offers what they call a mortgage actually provides any of their own money or funds or whatever you want to call it to purchase the property. That's not how it works. They would like to make you think that that's how it works, so that way they can dupe us, I should say, into thinking that they are giving up their money to help us, so therefore we've got to pay them back over 30 years with interest and end up paying 2 or 3 times the value of the property back to the so-called lender, when in fact, if you do your homework, you would realize, especially regarding negotiable instruments, there are no contracts that are created through the process of the mortgage, or what they call the mortgage, or creating the mortgage. What there is, it's at best it may be a unilateral contract, but that's kind of an oxymoron, if you will. Because for there to be a contract, there has to be 2 agreeing parties, and there has to be a meeting of the minds. And there's certain qualifications and standards that have to be met for an agreement to be considered a contract, if those are the right words to use. So without this, if there is misrepresentation of information during the negotiations of the creating of the potential contract, and if there are elements that are omitted from that potential contract, or just not included in the documents that would be a contract had it had those elements, then, I mean, not only is that material misrepresentation, but fraud on its face. But then on top of that, as I stated, the corporations, the financial institutions, banks, credit unions, whatever you want to call them, they like to call themselves lenders, but they don't lend anything. They don't give up any of their money. See, what they do is they take the negotiable instrument that's created when you or I or any living man or woman endorses the documents with the amount on it. It's the I'm trying to recall the exact term of the title of the document. But essentially, it's the document where it shows the value of the property, that you're essentially recording the deed of the purchase through that process. And once the endorsement of the purchaser or the acquirer, or whatever the terminology would be, once that endorsement is put on that document, that document is then a legal negotiable instrument and can be traded for value. And so what the institutions do, financial institutions, banks, etc., what they do is they take that negotiable instrument and they sell it on the open market, on the stock market. And typically at a discount. So if you're buying a property at, say, $100,000, they'll sell it off at a discount, so they may get a portion of that, like a percentage, like 75% or something like that, like 75,000. I'm not sure exactly. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. But here's the thing. What they do is they take that negotiable instrument and they trade it with the U.S. Treasury. This is the part of the process. This is how it gets traded on the stock market and in the open market. So they trade it with the Treasury for Federal Reserve notes, and the Federal Reserve notes that are traded in return for that negotiable instrument, the bank, financial institution, etc., calls their own money that they then say that they're lending back to you or I, what they call the borrower. So essentially, we're borrowing our own money. It's a scheme. It's a fraudulent scheme, because what these people are doing is they're acting as a fiduciary. They're accessing the Sest Trust, the public trust that's established, that every one of us that has a Social Security number, a birth certificate with an all capital letter name, or some of those documents may or may not have the all capital letter name. Anyways, without getting into all of that, what that does is that establishes an account that accesses that trust for us to be able to do business. You just look up back in 1933 when the gold standard was done away with, the amendment to the Emergency Banking Act and Trading with the Enemy Act. If you look all that up, and you can put the pieces together if you learn more about that. But anyways, so we don't have gold or silver to purchase anything with anymore. We're not allowed to, supposedly. So we use negotiable instruments. Now, Federal Reserve notes are negotiable instruments. We call them cash, typically in society. Most people call it cash. But if you look at the piece of paper, it's really just a fancy piece of paper with a bunch of markings on it. But essentially, it's got all of the elements that are required for a document to be considered a negotiable instrument. So basically, if you think about it, all that's being done is these negotiable instruments are being created by one entity or another, then being traded and passed back and forth. And because there's no real money, we have to use these negotiable instruments to negotiate the trade. So when we sign the documents to purchase a property, that document becomes worth the amount on the document that the property is worth. That's what pays for the property, because the financial institution then accepts that document for value, but they just don't tell you that. See, they accept it, and then they trade it for Federal Reserve notes, more negotiable instruments, and then they tell you, oh, well, we used our money to purchase the property, and now you're going to have to pay us back over 30 years plus interest, and which ends up making a $100,000 property over 30 years. You end up paying somewhere around $250,000, depending on interest rates and other things. And then you got all the escrow, the other costs, mortgage insurance and all that stuff, property insurance, which is part of the escrow. And then, what am I forgetting? There's something else there. Property taxes. Yeah, they love to get you for the taxes every year, because they treat it as if the property is being sold. See, you're only supposed to pay taxes. No, you're not even supposed to, but there's really only, I guess, sales tax. And so the counties treat the properties as if they're being sold every year. So that's how they assess the tax amounts to the properties and trick people into paying these amounts to the county. When it's all, I don't know if Ponzi scheme is the correct terminology, but it's just fraud. Because most people don't realize, and I'm going through the process now of, I went and got a copy of the warranty deed for the property. and there's a couple of documents that I need to create and get notarized to acknowledge the deed. And once I do that, it will rebut all of the other marketable deeds. There's another type. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember the other type. But anyways, it will rebut all of those, and I will be the established owner of the property free and clear. And the property will not be assessed any more taxes or tax amounts, or I won't be told I need to pay the county or anybody any amount for the property anymore. It's ridiculous. So I would encourage you all to go through this process. Look up Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER, on YouTube. Look up his channel, and he has a video. It's titled something to the effect of "Accept the Deed and Become the Owner," something like that. If you go look at that video and learn more about what he talks about in there, define some of the words that he's using in some of the documents that are used in the documents, define some of those words and comprehend more about the process before you do anything. But he breaks that process down on how to acknowledge the document, how to acknowledge the deed, and essentially what that does. He kind of briefly explains that as well, but you can learn more if you take that basic knowledge and then do some more research. Even just looking at the deed, go get a copy of the deed yourself. It may cost a little bit of money for a certified copy. Usually, like at the county recorder's office here, it was about $2 a page, and it was only three pages long, so it was like $6 to get the certified copy. But so I'm going to go through that process to get the property. I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, but if I heard it correctly, it's having the property removed from the tax registry and not making it able to be taxed every year. So that would be one benefit there, addressing that issue. And that may also have an effect with this other situation here. I'm not sure 100% yet. I have a feeling that it does, but not having gone through this process before, I'm not an expert, and I'm just going by what I'm learning as I learn it. So based on what I've learned, it seems that would have an effect, but again, I'm not 100% sure. So anyways, I encourage you all to educate yourselves, know the truth. Do you want to be a slave? Do you want to be a dependent? Do you want to be a child and let someone else, be your mommy and daddy, even in adulthood, and have adults tell you what you can and can't do? And, do you want to be that type, or do you want to be a little bit more independent? Do you want to be independent? Do you want to take care of your own affairs? Do you want to take care of your own estate? That's really the difference. And the government wants you to be dependent. They want to be your mommy and daddy, so then they can tell you what you can and can't do, and they can limit you. They don't want you to, take care of your own affairs. They don't want you to be responsible, because then they don't have any power. Or they don't have as much power, I should say. So you all keep your heads up, keep this in mind, and look into it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer if I can, and leave in the comments.